How's it going, guys? So, as you've heard the media circulate all the rumors about how this officer shot her in cold blood and this was a murder and she was just trying to flee and all that fun stuff, and all the experts talk about use of force laws and how it applied and how it didn't apply. Well, let me show you this, because Fox News and a couple of other agencies have received the cell phone video of the ICE officer who actually shot her. It gives you a much better perspective than the one the left tries to push, that, this was, her just trying to flee. She didn't intend to hit him. He was in the wrong spot. He shouldn't have been standing in front of the car. I've heard a million and one different ways to try to justify an incident that was attempted vehicular homicide. So with all that being said, let's watch this video.
The latest on what's happening there. Garrett, good afternoon.
Yeah, Trace, good afternoon. This new video will be a crucial piece of evidence in this investigation because it was recorded by the agent himself, and it shows the events leading up to the shooting from his point of view. Here is that entire video.
She looks very scared, doesn't she, guys? Just, throwing that out there.
Terrified.
It's okay, we don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen.
That's the wife.
You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Out of the car. Out of the car. 3 times out of the car. Boom. So she didn't hit the officer. Let's run that back.
Yeah, you can hear that. You can hear her make contact.
Yeah. But mind you, right after that, he shoots her. And as sad as that is, I don't think it's going to get any more clear that he was hit by the car. I've heard people say that he never got hit. He shot her from the side. Let's play that one more time. You can hear the gunshot. Look at her face.
No, you can hear the impact.
Yeah, the impact of him getting hit. But right
there is a little bit longer.
Yeah, right before that though, listen to this.
Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. Drive, baby, drive.
Baby. And then she punches the gas.
Yep.
And then he gets hit. That's why the phone is facing the sky right now, because he's now drawn down on her. And then that was the shot.
He dropped. I think it sounds like he dropped his phone on her hood to draw.
Yeah.
Vice President J.D. Vance reacted to this new video on X, saying, "Many of you have been told this law enforcement officer wasn't hit by a car, wasn't being harassed, and murdered an innocent woman. The reality is that his life was endangered, and he fired in self-defense." No.
Huh.
Dispense.
Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, and let's not forget that impeding a federal agent is a felony. Let's not forget that fleeing and eluding and failure to obey lawful orders by a federal agent are also crimes. Let's not forget that taking off. Let's pretend the officer that shot her wasn't even standing there, not even in that realm. The officer that was trying to get her out of the car was still holding on to the car, and that is assault on a police officer. Then she drives off, which is fleeing and eluding. So this is layers on layers on layers of her fucking fault. There's no There's no getting around it. There's no muddying the water with, you know, speculation.
And
I showed I mean I talked about what the statutes on
yeah.
lethal force was.
Now, I
Yeah, what
would
were you
like to point out one thing. The reason I can guarantee you, the reason why he, instead of going behind the car, is because why he decided to go around the front. Not only was it the shortest path to the driver, but
mm-hmm.
as far as he was aware, the wife was still getting in the car. And
Yep.
most people aren't going to drive off with a door open. And
That's
if he
a
could get
very
to
good point.
if he can get to the driver's side fast enough and they could get a hold of that wheel, then they can kind of control the situation.
Yep. So let's look at, again, for those of you that need a reminder, this is the DOJ's website on use of force. It is policy 1-16.200, use of deadly force and prohibited restraint techniques. So deadly force. A law enforcement or correctional officers with the DOJ may use deadly force only when necessary. That is when the officer has a reasonable belief. Remember, he was just drugged, so he doesn't have a belief, he has experience. A reasonable belief that the suspect of such force poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury. Serious is a subjective word, so that means in the law enforcement officer's opinion, serious physical injury to the officer or to another person. So that could have been him, the one that shot. That could have been his buddy, his partner, who, you know, was about to get drugged. So let's go on here. Deadly force may not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect. This is what you hear over and over and over and over again. And it's valid. It's absolutely true. But firearms may not be discharged solely to disable a moving vehicle. You hear that one again. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless the person in the vehicle threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle. So that what that means, or what I interpret that to mean, because I'm not a lawyer, that means that
double check that.
they need to have a weapon other than the vehicle. So these two things are what are quoted over and over again. Hold on. But where they fail to pick up on it, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury to the officer or to others, and no other objectively reasonable means of defense appear to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle.
Yes.
So, with all of that being said, let's run it back one more time, because I want you to form your own opinion on this and tell me if the officer, while on the hood of the car, has any means of escape.
You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Antagonize him. So 3 times get out of the car.
That's a fourth.
You tell me. Did he have reasonable time to get out of the way of that car? Or were his actions cut short because she hit him on his way out of the way? What do you think?
I can tell you that is not enough time, even for someone younger and quicker or what have you. That is not enough time to get out of the way. As soon as she pulled back, you can go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 20 in 0.02 seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
in a vehicle.
He is 2 feet in front of her car. Mind you, he's not trying to stop her, like stand in front of her to stop her from moving her vehicle. He is simply walking around to the driver's side of the door. And that's when she decides she's going to take off.
Yeah, he's using the shortest route to get to the objective of the situation, which is getting her out of the vehicle. Now, I will say, because I did double check this with and a buddy of mine who's an officer, and then with my own training and whatnot, is the only way we can legally use and get away with shooting out a tire, the radiator, is if our shot to the driver is obstructed. That is the only other way we can get away with it. Otherwise, if we have time to disable the vehicle, or if we feel it's so that disabling the vehicle is going to end the situation, then we have enough time to try and de-escalate the situation without our firearms.
Right. I mean,
so no, disabling the vehicle will could get an officer's shield taken. It could get my certification taken. It could get an ICE agent fired.
Yeah. Like, you're not, so if you use your firearm in a manner that is not consistent with deadly force, you are using excessive force. Like, if you fire a warning shot, because I think it says it in here.
Yeah, it's not like the TV shows.
Yeah.
You can't just shoot out a radiator and be okay. That's actually really stupid to do, because they can lose control of the car even in a worse fashion than if you shoot the driver.
So let's look at 1-16.300 de-escalation. So officers will be trained in de-escalation tactics and techniques designed to gain voluntary compliance from a subject. From such tactics and techniques would be employed if objectively feasible and would not increase the danger to the officer or others. So that's a lot of words to say. If you can de-escalate the situation, de-escalate it. If you can't, you don't have to sit there and negotiate with her before she runs you over. She has already made up the big girl decision that she's going to at least drive away.
The moment she pulls back, that's when de-escalation is over. The moment that car moves from a parked position, de-escalation is over and done with. That's for any officer. That's for armed security. That's for police. That's for federal officers. That's for military. The moment that car starts moving, de-escalation is over and done with.
You can't talk to somebody in a moving vehicle. Like, that's how that works. And you can't, from outside the vehicle, you cannot stop a vehicle from moving.
Yeah. And no, that does not also mean that now you have one of the other officers could have tried to disable by blowing the tire out. Unless they've got spike strips in their vehicle or on their body, there is no disabling the vehicle. Spike strips are only for car chases. Trying to use them not in a car chase is stupid, and it's going to get you in trouble.
So you have to use every means available to you, and if you don't have that available, it's outside of the conversation anyway.
Yeah. Like, I've seen people say, well, why didn't one of them go and grab spike strips and just let her go and then get in front of her and throw out spike strips?
What?
Yeah. Yes,
we're talking about an officer that was being run over. That's irrelevant to the point. That's 10 miles down the road. That if he didn't shoot her, that's what they would have done.
They're not thinking. They're thinking of what would have kept nobody from dying. And they're not thinking of the immediate situation. They're thinking, oh, if they had just let her, because before this came out, it's like, well, why didn't they just let her go and then chase her down? Yes, let's put the rest of the public in danger just to make sure she lives. So we're gonna put children in danger. We're gonna put the public in danger. We're gonna put people in danger of a fast-moving, obviously emotionally agitated person in a vehicle, a deadly weapon, just to make sure that one person hopefully lives.
Yeah. Right. Not to mention it's icy roads and bad conditions, so she could lose track of
Exactly.
the vehicle. And there are protesters who do play a role in this right outside the
Yep.
officers, that their operating area, because they're all trying to block them in.
Yep. And there's still people out there protesting right now.
I mean, you can look at it however you want to do it, but there is very clear-cut case law on this. I forgot what there's like Supreme Court rulings on it. I forgot what they were. I'd have to go look them up again. But this isn't the first time an officer has shot at a fleeing suspect, a moving vehicle, yeah. But
after being hit.
Right. Let's go to this one right here.
With the very latest on.
We begin this hour watching Minnesota and Portland, Oregon, protesting in some cases in those areas turning violent, not free speech, but all-out chaos. And in Minneapolis, it's following the ICE-involved shooting. The victim there we're learning more about, known as a far-left activist with some ties to some interesting people and groups. Portland, Oregon, 2 shootings overnight. I should say 2 people shot overnight, tied to Trinidad, Aragua, according to the Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, yeah.
We will get into all of it this hour. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Things got pretty ugly in Minnesota last night.
Oh my God, drag him back.
Huh. So why do you need a gas mask to peacefully protest?
That's the only thing I could.
Are you expecting them to use gas on a riot? Are you expecting to be a part of a riot? Is that what it is?
Are you Bieber?
Federal agents arrested at least 12 people there last night, and calling them protesters at this point, let's move into agitators, and if they prove crimes against them, we'll call them criminals.
Yeah.
Agents were forced to use tear gas and pepper balls to disperse the agitators. And tensions are also high around the investigation into that shooting. State officials are now urging the federal government to let them be part of the probe. Well, they were, but the federal government has jurisdiction. And now the feds are arguing Minnesota does not have that legal jurisdiction. They don't. Here's Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey.
You got nothing to hide from, then don't hide from it. Include local experts in the process.
You mean include people that can get a hold of evidence, leak it to the media, and muddy the waters on the investigation? To rig any possible jury pool against the officer like you did Derek Chauvin?
Yeah. He doubles down but says
all we want in Minneapolis is justice and the truth.
And of course, before he could go further, he had to explain why he was dropping F-bombs and promised not to make any more. But he wants us to find experts. I hope he doesn't consider himself one. Well, just into Fox now. Brand new video from the Daily Mail. Watch this closely. I've only seen it once, right before we came to air. Their reporting shows the woman killed, Renee Nicole Good, was already blocking the road for 4 minutes before that confrontation with ICE agents. She was doing so that her wife.
So I want something to be pointed out right here, because I just got a comment saying that he drew his gun before she accelerated. He drew his gun when she put the car in reverse while his partner was still hanging into it, indicating she had the intent to drive away with his partner hanging out the window, which is
protocol.
Yep.
Could leap out of the car to begin filming, which we know she was continuing to do throughout this whole thing. We're also learning more about the woman whom agents killed in that shooting. Sources saying that Nicole Renee Good was an immigration activist who was part of a left-wing group that would monitor and interfere with federal immigration enforcement operations. In fact, on the ground that very afternoon this week, you could hear the whistle blowing. It's something that they're known to do so that they can tell the neighborhood that ICE agents are in the area. Former acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf is coming up with me in Focus. Before that, Fox team coverage. Christina Coleman in Portland with more on the arrest there. Yes, and then first, Alexis McAdams in Minneapolis with the latest there. Alexis.
Hi, Harris. Well, you've been seeing it on your screen. Yesterday, we checked in with you in front of the federal building where there were all those protesters. We're expecting more again tonight and counting. And as you said, the mayor here in Minneapolis didn't drop an F-bomb today, but he didn't tell people not to, act out, because we've seen it where they're spitting and fighting with these federal agents. So I want to see what's going to happen again today.
So if Donald Trump caused the riot at the Capitol, is Jacob Fry causing this riot? And should he be indicted on federal charges and probed for years and years and years and impeached from office?
It's almost as if on the ground, Harris, the state and the local officials are watching a completely different video clip than the feds, because the city officials say it's murder, the feds say it was justified, but it led to those protests and also this picture that we're going to show you too on your screen. So this is Renee Nicole Good. We're learning that she was an activist, according to DHS sources. You tell me she was part of this group called Ice Watch, and we heard about it in other places, not just Minnesota. These people go
I've
out,
heard of it
they call
too.
themselves legal observers, but they're not just observing, according to the feds. Renee Nicole Good was using her car as a weapon, according to the federal prosecutors. They say she hit an agent with her car, and investigators say, it's just so cold, sorry, say that she was with this group that monitors, tracks, interferes, and are against all federal immigration enforcement. Listen to this.
This individual, the subject in question, the deceased, had been following our law enforcement throughout the day, stalking them. At the time of this incident, our law enforcement was outside of their vehicle, trying to get their vehicle out of the snow, when she started blocking our law enforcement, harassing them, impeding lawful operations on the ground.
So I want to move from this to news that's just coming in right now.
Hey, I would play, if you can, that there's a short, I know it's in the Gen Chat by Curly Boy Chuck. It plays a little bit further past, but just so if you do play it, you can hear the gunshots, but it shows a little bit more of that first clip from the ICE agents point of view. If you can, if you can play that.
I'll go to it in a little bit, but
okay.
Trump, we have, what do we got right now?
I can't see anything when I'm on stream.
Yeah, I know. I'm adding it. This is Trump meeting with oil executives for plans for Venezuela's reserves.
Oh. The dogs are about to be mad at me.
Let's move forward.
Well, it's a great honor to be with among the biggest companies in the world, by far, I would say. And we're doing tremendous things. Our country is doing very well. You saw the numbers that got released today, yesterday. Deficits cut way, way, way back at levels that nobody's ever seen before, setting records. And the numbers coming into our country are unprecedented. And we're doing really well. We had a situation 3 days ago with Venezuela, and we're getting along extremely well with the people of Venezuela, both the people and the people that are running Venezuela. I just want to thank our military. What they've done is incredible. That was considered unprecedented, to go into a military fort with thousands of soldiers and others, and to come in with 152 planes going every which way, and very rapid speeds and helicopters, and to come out with no deaths and the loss of no equipment. It was pretty amazing. Nobody's seen anything like it. I was called by the leaders of numerous countries. I won't go.
I'm sorry, but when we have to measure how great the mission is by how we didn't lose equipment, when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, equipment means people, and people are
Yes.
important. So that
Oh,
is
yes. But
it's
when
mission.
you,
You measure it by three things. Did you complete your mission, and what was the cost to complete your mission? So when the cost is low to complete your mission and you complete it quickly, and that is a successful mission. So that's why we're talking about that.
yes, I
But
know, but it just, after the last, what happened over and how much equipment we lost during the um, pulling out of Afghanistan, it's just like, wow.
I mean, that it's a typical metric for the
I
military.
know it
It
just,
is
it, I,
how it is.
for
But
my brain just goes, yeah.
but
On Minnesota, the vice president yesterday suggested that Renee Good, who was killed by this ICE officer, was part of a broad left-wing network. What has your team told you about this broad left-wing network? Who is in charge of it? Who's part of it? What's it called?
Well, I haven't seen the vice president's statement, but he's generally very accurate. I hate to say, look, I watched that yesterday, and there were a lot of different forms to it. But there was a woman screaming, "Shame, shame, shame, shame." She was a agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high-level agitator, so professional. She wouldn't stop screaming. I said, "This isn't a normal situation. This is a professional troublemaker." Because you heard it and I had it. Now, I will say this, the news sort of turned her down, turned her off, because you're trying to watch. She was so loud and so crazy and just not normal. When somebody sees something like that, they don't go screaming and screaming and the same words. So I guess you could say professional, but I didn't think she did a very good job. You have agitators, and we will always be protecting ICE,
yep.
and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law
Yeah,
enforcement.
I have to,
And
What was that?
I was gonna say, yeah, which is, that does irritate me that they kind of turned her sound down, that shame, shame, shame,
Yeah.
because at that point, when it gets to when most people that are there of their own accord, when they start seeing an actual confrontation, physical confrontation starting to happen, they're
Mhm.
gonna stop, and it's going to be an oh my god, not a continue shame, shame, while the situation's going on until they hear the gunshots. They're
Yeah.
going to stop and be like, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh.
Yeah. Like it's very interesting. I don't know if you've seen a lot of like cell phone video of crazy events happening, but typically when you're in that kind of shock about something happening, you drop your phone and start running towards the
Hmm.
situation or running away from the situation.
Yeah.
She holds her phone up and goes and starts recording the car. It's almost like she had no regard for what actually happened to her
Oh
girlfriend,
yeah.
and is just like trying to get it all on tape. But
Yeah. And that's why we figured out that they had only been together a couple of weeks.
a couple of weeks, and she just moved to the area like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's like,
So
"Oh, I wonder why you moved to Minneapolis to work with your group of protesters that dox ICE agents and harass them."
yeah. So yeah, she
very
probably really
rapid
had no
speeds
regard
of
for her yet.
helicopters,
Yeah.
and to come out with no deaths and the loss of no equipment. It was pretty amazing. Nobody's seen anything like it. I was called by the leaders of numerous countries. I won't go into which ones, but the biggest and the strongest, and they said that was very impressive. They're all impressed. But today I'm delighted to welcome almost 24 of the biggest and most respected oil and gas executives in the world to the White House. It's an honor to be with them. We have many others that were not able to get in. I said if we had a ballroom, we'd have over 1,000 people. Everybody wanted. I never knew your industry was that big. I never knew you had that many people in your industry. But here we are. And if you, in fact, if you look, come to think of it, well, I got to look at this myself. Wow. What a view. This is the door to the ballroom. What a unusual time to look. But I figure we might as
He's
well.
always got to add a little
If
bit
the
of
fake
levity
news
to
would like to
things.
go back and take a look, you can, but you'll see a very big foundation that's moving. We're ahead of schedule in the ballroom and under budget. It's going to be, I don't think there'll be anything like it in the world, actually. I think it's be the
He said
best.
Russia has a ballroom. Why can't
our
I?
biggest room, which would
Right?
seat 100 for dinner, maybe. If you're lucky, if you're nice and tight. And the ballroom will seat many. And it'll also take care of the inauguration with bulletproof glass, drone-proof ceilings and everything else, unfortunately, that today you need. So we're going to
That's another
discuss
reason
how
why I
these
agree
great
with that.
American companies can help rapidly rebuild Venezuela's dilapidated oil industry and bring millions of barrels of oil production to benefit the United States, the people of Venezuela, and the entire world. And yesterday, the number is 30 million barrels. I can't even, is that a correct number? 30 million barrels. You hear that, Peter? Of oil was given to us by Venezuela. That's a lot of oil. It's about $4 billion worth, and it's on its way to the United States right now. And we want to thank Venezuela for that. And we're working very well with them, obviously, or they wouldn't have been so generous, but they respect us. Again, they didn't respect us at all before. So that's money that goes to the United States. Some will go to Venezuela, and some will go to the oil companies, but not that, because that's already been extracted. So when you're not getting any of that, but when you start extracting, you'll get. But it's tremendous reserves, among the biggest in the world. Some people say it is the biggest in the world. And we're going to be working with Venezuela. We're going to be making the decision as to which oil companies are going to go in, that we're going to allow to go in. Going to cut a deal with the companies. We'll probably do that today or very shortly thereafter with Chris and Doug. And we're dealing with the country, so we're empowered to make that deal. And you have total safety, total security. One of the reasons you couldn't go in is you had no guarantees, you had no security, but now you have total security. It's a whole different Venezuela, and Venezuela is going to be very successful.
So that's something that should be. I'd like to see how that plays out, because I mean, personally, I'm not an oil company, but if I had the history, that I had with Venezuela, I wouldn't be too eager to jump into Venezuela.
Yeah, again.
Happened. They basically stole the leases from them, and no president has done anything to stop them from doing that. And Trump doesn't exactly get to run things for very much longer. He only has 3 years to pay for the reinvestment costs that it would cost to go get that place up and running. Is hundreds of billions of dollars, which is 10, 15 years before they're going to start seeing returns on those investments, not to mention the amount of security you have to have and all of that fun stuff. So that's,
it would be. I completely agree with you on
the United
that.
States are going to be big beneficiaries.
What's that?
I was gonna say I'm of the same mindset with you on that. Now, what I was gonna say is, however, if we knew for a fact that whoever comes in after Trump is going to continue to make sure that it doesn't happen again and can make sure it's a permanent situation, then I would jump right in and be like, okay, let's go. But with our history with them, I completely agree. I'd be a little scared to just 2 feet jump in and gun ho, let's go. Maybe like a year by year contract just to make sure.
But the thing is you can't start making any money until you make those investments. So if we start running a year by year contract, that's not going to mean anything for someone that needs 15 years to get a return on their investment.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of like the first thing, because I don't know why that popped in my head. I'm having one of those days, man.
It's because we're going to be extracting, numbers in terms of oil, like, few people have ever seen, actually. So You're dealing with us directly. You're not dealing with Venezuela at all. We don't want you to deal with Venezuela. Let me thank Vice President J.D. Vance, who's doing a fantastic job. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, likewise, a fantastic job. I have good people. I like them better than my first group. But we had a great, despite that, we had a great first term. We had some great people there too, by the way. But we had a great first term. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country in the first term, but this is blowing it away. And you haven't seen anything yet. Everyone's been shocked by the numbers, 5.4% GDP. And that's despite the fact that we were badly hurt by the Democrat shutdown, of which they'd like to see if they could shut it down again. Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, was fantastic. Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, recommended by Doug as being the greatest oil man anywhere in the world. Because I wanted Doug for that job, energy, and Doug said, no, sir, there's a man named Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? He said he's the most talented oil man anywhere in the world. I doubt you can get him because typically oil men make a lot of money, and women. They make a lot of money, but Chris came. You took one of the greatest salary cuts probably in history, Chris. Right? But he's a fantastic person, loves our country, and many other important members of this team. And I want to thank them for their efforts. As you know, last week, the United States Armed Forces performed one of the most spectacular military operations in American history, apprehending the outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro for his crimes against the United States, crimes for which he has now been indicted and is in federal court awaiting trial. And he killed many people, millions of people, actually, and allowed jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums, drug dealers, drug addicts to pour into our country totally unchecked because of Sleepy Joe Biden's policy of open borders, the stupidest thing I've ever seen. We're getting them all out. The departure of Maduro makes it possible an incredible future for both nations, Venezuela and the United States, in which we will more closely integrate the economies of two major energy powers in the Western Hemisphere. Energy coming out of Venezuela was very small. One of the things the United States gets out of this will be even lower energy prices. We have people now getting gasoline for $1.99, $1.96, $1.95, $1.92 yesterday, somebody.
That'd be
It
nice.
used to be $3.50, $4, $5 a gallon.
Mine was $1.81.
$1.81.
Really?
Decades ago,
Yep.
the United States built
Again.
Venezuela's oil industry at tremendous expense with American skill, technology, know-how, and dollars. But those assets were stolen from us, and we had presidents who did nothing about it. This president is much different than your other presidents. They did nothing about it. They stole it. Some of the people in this room were a little bit younger when that happened, but not that much younger. Wasn't that long ago. But they stole our assets like we were babies. And the United
I think a lot of people forget that. Like,
Yeah.
that, you know, Hugo Chavez basically just
Took it.
said, yeah, it's ours now.
Yeah.
Which is another
And-
reason why you should be skeptical as an oil man to go in there and do it all over again and invest more money just to lose it. But
Yeah. And I've had multiple people when I'll comment, they're like, they'll say, I can't believe we're stealing Venezuela's oil. It's not. It was ours. It was ours from the jump. What do you mean? We built their oil infrastructure, correct? It was
Right.
American ingenuity, engineering, and an industry that built it as a way to work with Venezuela. It was supposed to benefit both of us.
yeah, it
And
was a joint benefit.
Chavez basically pirated it away from us.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Trump is trying to go back to that model where we basically profit
Yeah.
share with Venezuela. Like they're sanctioned from selling oil to pretty much everywhere around the world. So what he's doing is I think like 30% of their oil production he's buying at market price
Yeah.
and giving back to the Venezuelan people.
He's basically trying to go back to the original agreement.
Yeah. What I personally think should happen, and this is just me, I think he should leave it in the hands of the Venezuelan people. You know, let's not send our infrastructure over there, our
Again.
companies and stuff over there. Let's let them invest in it. Let's let them put the capital up based off of the oil sales that they're getting from the United States. Reinvest in their manufacturing so that they've all lost. All the companies have kind of recovered from their losses from that situation.
Yeah.
But let the Venezuelan people create an oil company that can sell oil to the United States, and they can't sell it anywhere else. They're not going to use it all. So let's just
and that way,
that way the people themselves can actually benefit from it, not not any one government. Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Let's look at what Tampon Tim decided to say about federally federally activating the National Guard.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Today I'm joined by Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Colonel Schaefer of the Minnesota National Guard, and Colonel Bogojevic of the Minnesota State Patrol. This morning we learned that an ICE officer shot and killed someone in Minneapolis. My deepest condolences to the family, to the loved ones who had to learn about this tragic event on national television. We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back.
Who's recklessness?
Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident, but we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give that.
As you always do. So in other words, let's just decode Democrat logic for you. Everything you've done up until this point is completely okay. All that fun stuff, completely okay. Keep doing it. So let's go look at what he means by what they've been doing.
Their peaceful protest.
Guys, I'm gonna have you guys back up. Please, back up. Show your faces! Show your face! Let me see it! Don't worry.
I mean, okay.
It gets better. Super peaceful, huh?
There it is again. That shame, shame, shame.
Not to mention they're hitting him.
Yeah. So when I was taught about peaceful protesting,
Civics and economics, American history, civil responsibilities. Yeah.
It was a sit-in. It was you go and you sit down and you calmly make your statement, your where you sit, your statement known, what your beliefs are. It was a sit-in. It was a stand on the side of the road. You chant, you sing songs. That's what when I think of peaceful protest, actual peaceful protest, it's standing on the side of the road. It's getting your signs up. It's not cussing. It's not screaming. It's singing songs of unity and against whatever it is you're protesting.
Now compare
That's
that
what I
to
was taught. That is a riot from what I was taught. There's this saying, you get more flies with honey, or more bees with honey than you do vinegar.
Did you hear that?
I missed that last little bit.
Did you hear that?
I think so. I've got a dog chewing on a bottle right next to me, so.
Watch your back, please.
Yep, I got that. Fuck you. Watch your back, pussy.
See him?
Let's move on.
Look, there is nothing like being on the ground, talking to people, to try to get a clearer picture of the story, which is what we did today in Minneapolis. Right now, there's about 300 people here. Fairly
I got a pretty clear picture of the story.
Back there, but we're going to have the fires, food, water, a lot of people in masks, but people are coming out and expressing themselves. And it kind of takes on almost a community civic event. I wouldn't say celebration, but it's a gathering. And although it was pretty peaceful, like, and it really was. I mean, in that vigil, it was basically people, you know, they had a fire, they were giving out food, water, and, you know, some people were chanting. So that was fine. But if you actually go into the mix and try to chat with people, you end up getting escorted out. And they kind of nicely but aggressively escort you out across their border. So then we headed over to the Whipple Federal Building where Garrett just was. And earlier in the day, you saw some of those, you know, those conflicts between the ICE officers and the protesters were there. And things there, well, they got a little more interesting.
That. To the human race?
Why are you wearing a mask? Why are you wearing a mask?
Because my nose is cold. Why do you care if I'm wearing a mask?
I'm just curious. Just a question. This is the crowd.
Oh.
They apparently are policing their borders. So they're policing their borders here, which is fascinating.
Now the news are agitators.
Oh, so boring.
Shame.
Do you have a job?
And they're policing their borders.
Do you have a job?
Shame. I'm getting paid right now.
Oh.
Well, and
so
as we
you
were
guys were getting
leaving
paid to do that.
in our vehicle, they did what they can do. They gave us all the finger. I think they secretly liked us, though. But a few observations here. So the protests are always smaller than they look on TV. Many of the folks there seem like they do this for recreation. And there are others that are truly mourning and really upset. And others seem to be people who just don't believe the United States should have any borders. But again, they sure do
I'm getting
aggressively
a call. I'll be
police
right
their
back.
own borders. And while, again, there were plenty of people there just peacefully protesting, there are just as many people out there who seem like lifelong members of the agitator industrial complex. You heard that one woman, unclear whether she was joking or not, saying she was paid for being there. Huh, interesting. So even if they're not throwing stuff or physically blocking ICE, disrespecting law enforcement, a lot of them just seem perpetually pissed off. Well, and I wonder why. As we see with what's happening in this more horrible news out of Portland tonight, rage is being stoked, and it's mostly being stoked by a party with no solutions.
They wanted a moment like this, and look, it happened.
We should not have ICE agents patrolling our streets. They're not needed. They create chaos, and they even create deaths.
There are going to be protests around this entire country because of the state-sanctioned execution that we all saw.
The state-sanctioned execution. So we're not allowed to conflate any of our opinions, but Democratic lawmakers who are supposed to be held to a higher standard, they're allowed to say things like that.
That is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the administration.
ICE has been carrying out state-sanctioned violence in our community.
State-sanctioned violence. There's always a new man.
We have seen them terrorize so many of citizens.
But the worst of the worst today was a slimy comment by the ever odious Tim Walz, governor of this state, claiming that he wants to calm things down. And then he invokes a Nazi threat.
We're at one of those inflection points that simply asking our government to give us accountability, listen to local leaders, ratchet down the rhetoric, let people feel safe. We remembered, many of us in here in sophomore, when we read it, that the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most important directive.
George Orwell, really? I was wondering why everybody on the left was quoting that to me every time I would point out their hypocrisy. It came from this guy.
It certainly feels like that in this moment.
Okay, so we want to tamp things down as we keep vilifying law enforcement, federal agents. And I also say, where is the empathy for the ICE officer involved in that shooting yesterday, who, according to the New York Post,
that doesn't exist. He's not a human. As far as the left is concerned, that's Donald Trump.
Was himself dragged and hospitalized by an illegal alien driver last year. The attack on the officer, whom the Post is not naming, happened June 17th in Bloomington, Minnesota, exactly a month after embattled Minnesota Governor Tim Walz labeled ICE agents modern-day Gestapo while speaking at the University of Minnesota Law School graduation. And today, Vice President Vance blasted Democrats and the media for lying about the basic facts.
Everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah.
Every single one of you.
Yeah.
If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. You people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox.
So completely baffling, but let's tone the rhetoric down while we accuse them of being Gestapo. Let's tone the rhetoric down while we talk about
ratchet it up.
We're going to activate our National Guard, and it's our National Guard. Let's talk about George Orwell, unironically, about us believing our lying eyes. I don't know. I mean, are your eyes lying to you, Tove?
Last time I checked, only one.
But yeah.
And to just who is organizing the arrest and the technique to mobilize people. It happened in a flash. It's almost like they had a heads up. Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel has more from D.C. Mike.
Hi, Harris. Yeah, we've seen these far-left groups mobilizing quickly on a range of issues in recent years with some sophistication and organization. A group called Refuse Fascism wrote this week, from Venezuela to the streets of Minneapolis, the Trump regime murders and demonizes whole peoples. Party for Socialism and Liberation posted ICE murderers out of Minnesota trying to rally supporters to a protest last night. Vice President J.D. Vance is calling for following the money to some of these far-left groups.
When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this?
The latest far-left protests erupted in Minneapolis and appeared to materialize overnight. The protest machine moves quickly and in lockstep, from no kings to anti-Israel to anti-ICE. A senior editor of Fox Digital Investigations says these groups have a common mission.
These protests are pressing an agenda that is very much about destroying the United States from within. They have an anti-capitalist agenda, anti-imperialist refrain, and a hostility to the United States as it is constructed right now.
The concern being well-funded groups pouring gasoline on hot-button issues to potentially tear us apart. Harris?
Mike, thank you. Jason Chaffetz, now Fox News contributor and former Republican congressman from Utah. Look, we've seen unrest before. We saw it last summer. It is different somehow this time, but the coordination that we saw in universities here on Ivy Leagues on the East Coast and across the country, there seems to be some similarity.
There is some similarity, and I think the Trump administration, what J.D. Vance is signaling is that they need a whole of government approach to go after these networks. You can protest your government, you can petition your government, you cannot impede law enforcement, you cannot encourage and teach people to act violently. So the government, the Donald Trump administration has a lot of resources. Obviously, Homeland Security is a tip of the spear on this. But you also have the Department of Treasury, so FinCEN it's called, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. You have the IRS that can get involved and do things in that component there. You have do not fly lists that every single one of these people should get on there. They should never be able to get on an airplane given their proclivity to their desire to go out and cause this kind of chaos. Imagine if they did this on an airplane, for instance. You also have the Department of Justice and all sorts of networks there that can do and enforce things. I think that's coming together. I hope that's coming together. But when we saw the riots that happened in Los Angeles and the president had to send in the Marines, guess what happened? Nothing. Nobody really got arrested. And the few that did, I would love to know how many were actually prosecuted. My guess is the number is 0.
Well, Jonathan Turley is arguing in a new op-ed, Minnesota Democrats chose rage politics over sanity. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry making the point for Jonathan Turley for him. He came out swinging with this red-hot rhetoric. Do we have the bleep machine ready?
Just remember
They're
this.
already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bull.
Just about an hour ago.
Having seen the video myself, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Having seen every angle of the video that exists so far, and analyzing the laws around that situation and all the laws that she committed, I would say you're full of bullshit. That's my opinion, but
The mayor suddenly seems concerned about jumping to conclusions.
We know that they've already determined much of the investigation, and even if they haven't, there is the appearance that there is some conclusion drawn from the very beginning.
Oh,
you mean like exactly what you're trying to push right now?
Yeah, he's basically saying it almost sounded like he said that the investigation is already concluded. We can already tell what happened. It was a murder.
He's saying that that's what the feds are doing. They're just releasing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And it's ironic how he literally just said that it's a load of bullshit and that
You know what his political is? Gaslighting. Because he called this a murder from day one. We took the first news conference on this network when it happened. Come on. They already had a prescribed notion about what had happened to the woman who was at the wheel of a car with an agent in front of her, moving the car in icy conditions toward him, trying to avoid arrest. And it's on tape.
Yeah, he had that. Yeah, he had this in the first hour. Mayor swears a lot from Minneapolis, is fanning the flames. He's encouraging these things. His answer is, his prescription is for ICE to leave Minnesota. That's not going to happen.
So give in to the terrorists.
And you gotta, there's a choice. It's good versus evil. It's the idea that do you want law and order or do you not want law and order? If you these are sanctuaries.
I want to switch to a video done by Washington Gun Law. He's an attorney and has a pretty measured reaction to this. And he covers it a little bit more succinctly than I covered it, but covers the same things.
Hello again, everyone.
I like that Mayor swears a lot.
Joining us, we are going to have to talk about the terrible events that took place a couple days ago in Minnesota involving an ICE officer, because it appears that everybody on the Exosphere and other social media platforms are suddenly just like my father-in-law and brother-in-law. What do I mean by that? Well, they are all self-defense legal experts now, because in my family, they used to be infectious disease experts, and then they became election integrity experts, and then they became immigration enforcement experts, and lately they've been experts in fraud investigation investigation. And now they want to tell me how the laws of self-defense work without, of course, actually reading the law. And so what I figured we'd do today is something that no one else is really willing to do, which is take a look at what happened, but then compare that to the actual law. So that's what we're going to do today. So
hey there, Mr. William Kirk. I did that within an hour.
Today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about what does the law say about the ICE shooting in Minnesota. Okay, America. Now, listen, if you're tuning into this video to hear me say this is absolutely positively a cold-blooded murder, or this is absolutely positively legally justified, I'm not going there, because as a trial attorney, we don't try to come to conclusions until we have all the evidence. And you nor I have,
Jacob Fry,
all the evidence right now. We are going to take a look at 2 video clips to at least give us a thumbnail sketch of what may happen. But we are not truly going to get to a conclusion today, but we are going to ask all of you, based upon what you know so far, what do you think? Now, we all know the incident I'm talking about, where a woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minnesota. I am not going to try to glorify this thing, and I'm not going to sit here and try to coffin surf on her. And for those of you who may think that she had it coming, that she did this to herself, that this was an FAFO moment, you may be entirely right.
We are.
Let us not divorce ourselves from the fact that this is a human life, a terrible waste of a human life, and a mother of a young child. And so
2 things can be true at the same time. She definitely can be a mother, and, you know, a death is tragic, but actions have consequences. Let's not forget that, and let's not minimize that.
this is tragic no matter how we cut it up. I know there's a lot to the backstory and what happened leading up to this incident, but I'm here to tell you that most of that, if not all of it, is not going to matter. Let's go back to the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Yeah, the prosecution made a big deal out of all the events that led up to the incident, but really that 15 seconds that actually constituted the incident, that's what the entire trial was about. And so what led up to this will have little, if any, importance. As a matter of fact, the assessment of whether or not this was a lawful use of force is going to be based on really just a few seconds of time. And with that in mind, let's take a look at the first video clip that most of you have probably already seen. Now, I'm going to warn you that we'll probably stop it a little early simply because Google and YouTube have a tendency to completely crap themselves about here, but we will link up the videos below so that you can actually see them in their entirety. This is the first video, the one you've all seen.
Go around.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the What the You just what the did you do?
Okay, and we're going to break that down in just a moment here, but I think another video, which many of you may not have seen because it hasn't been circulated as much, but it's a different angle. And I want you to pay careful attention to this. And I want you to take a look at the officer who discharged his firearm, was actually in danger, and was, in this case, struck by the perpetrator's vehicle. Take a look at this video. Okay, so when we go and we do a video breakdown of this right here, it's all going to be focused on, was this officer, the one you can barely see here, or in this case, this officer right here, same guy, was he actually placed in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury? In general, there are 4 legal justifications for using lethal force. These are them right here. We're going to ignore 3 of them because we're going to just talk about this first one right here, which is that you yourself are in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. If this officer was in fact in imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury, he probably has legal justification for using lethal force. Now, I think we can all agree, we can probably all agree that getting run over by a car is certainly imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury. So if that was...
But Mr. Lawyer Man, why didn't he just move out of the way?
was a possibility, if that actually was the reality of what could occur, then there is a strong likelihood that the officer's actions here were lawfully justified. But for all of the people, the Jacob Freys of the world and everything like that, that are just coming to their own legal conclusion, might I remind them to check out what Minnesota law says. For example, Minnesota statute 609.
I'm pretty sure I covered this.
066, authorized use of deadly force by peace officers. Oh, there's a statute directly on point in Minnesota that talks about when peace officers may use lethal force. Yeah, there is. And here's what the statute says. A, notwithstanding the provisions of section 609.06 or 609.065, the use of deadly force by a peace officer in the line of duty is justified only if an objectively reasonable officer would believe, based on the totality of circumstances known to the officer at the time and without the benefit of hindsight, that such force is necessary.
Remember that, without the benefit of hindsight. So this is, you place your officer, or you place your brain into that officer for the 2 seconds that he had to react, not the 10 minutes of analyzation that we've done over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Let's put ourselves in those shoes, knowing what you know, knowing what your intentions are, without the benefit of, oh, this is a different angle of it.
And necessary to do one of the following. 1, to protect the peace officer or another from death or great bodily harm.
Him and his partner, so he's covered twice.
Yeah. Provided that the threat, 1, can be articulated with specificity.
She was running from law enforcement, hit one law enforcement officer, and was about to drag another one.
2, is reasonably likely to occur absent action by the law enforcement officer. And
well, we saw that it didn't occur because he did complete the action.
And 3, must be addressed through the use of deadly force without unreasonable delay.
Well, he didn't wait until she got all the way past him to shoot him.
She didn't
Which
wait
is
until
a
he was
fancy
underneath
legal
the
way
car
of saying
either.
you need to be able to articulate a very good reason and prove to us that you really did not have any other options. Now, the imminency, that is, how quickly could this happen, is always a critical component. So had the officer who discharged the firearm maybe been 30 yards down the road and had plenty of time to get out of the way, this would be an entirely different equation here. But let us remember that the officer is directly in front of the vehicle at the time that she decides to punch it. But then there's additional statutes that would apply to anybody in this situation, whether they're a peace officer or not. Take, for example, Minnesota statute 609.065, justifiable taking of life. That statute specifically states the intentional taking of the life of another is not authorized by section 609.06, except when necessary in resisting or preventing an offense which the actor reasonably believes exposes the actor or another to great bodily harm or death, or preventing the commission of a felony in the actor's place of abode. So if the ICE officer here reasonably believes that they had been exposed to a high probability of serious injury or death, not only themselves or any other fellow officers, they are justified in using lethal force. And then, and of course, Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey should know this because it is Minnesota law, and it took us all of about 10 seconds to look it up.
I find it absolutely hilarious that they're covering all this.
Believe it or not, there is specific law that talks about the authorized use of force against police officers. So let's say that for whatever reason, the now deceased believed that she had absolutely every right in the world to block traffic, to go out and protest, to obstruct, hinder, delay, whatever she was doing with the ICE operations. Understand that this Minnesota law specifically states deadly force used against peace officers. Deadly force may not be used against peace officers who have announced their presence and are performing official duties at a location where a person is committing a crime or an act that would be a crime if committed by an adult. Well, it is very clear that they did announce who they were. They did announce their presence. And what was their whole purpose of being there was to round up people for what? That's right, illegal activity.
She wasn't even, like, she wouldn't have been in any situation if she just minded her own business.
Okay, and then there's one other little legal issue that we need to discuss. And I do believe that some who believe this was cold-blooded murder are going to start beating on this drum anytime now. And I think it would be relevant if the officer was, in fact, more like 20 or 30 yards down the road and had a serious opportunity to get out of the way of the moving vehicle. Because in Minnesota, believe it or not, they have a duty to retreat. Just another strike against Minnesota, why it is really one of the most terrible states in America right now. But under Minnesota law, if you are in a public place and can safely avoid a confrontation or escape from danger, the law requires you to do so before resorting to force.
He was on top of the hood of the car. He cannot safely avoid a confrontation. And he's a law enforcement
And he was
officer.
trying to get out of the way.
He was. That's why he made it to where he made it and didn't just get swept up underneath the car or go up over the windshield.
All right. And again, if we take this officer right here, put him all the way down the street here, then I think we could at least analyze this under a duty to retreat. But when you are a mere few feet from the front of a vehicle, which is clearly hell-bent on accelerating in your direction, you don't really have that opportunity to retreat. So, America, seeing both of these video clips, understanding the legal framework, what's your opinion? Do you believe that this was a justified use of lethal force, or do you believe this was excessive force and thus...
This was cold-blooded murder.
Right?
That's what's my narrative.
Constitutes a homicide. And that is the $64,000 question. But now let's take more of a 35,000-foot view and ask ourselves this. How did we get here? How did we get here? Well, I suppose when you have literally every single politician from one of the two major political parties, including the most vocal of those coming from the state of Minnesota, basically calling ICE officers the Gestapo, the Nazis, things such as that, where they are essentially advocating for violence against law enforcement officers. And I want you to understand that even though you may not be thrilled with what ICE is doing, understand that ICE constitutes law enforcement and they're just out there doing their job. And there is a time and an opportunity to fight the legality of what law enforcement has done. I've made a living out of doing that. It does not.
He has. Mind you, he is a gun rights lawyer in the state of Washington. And a criminal defense lawyer in Washington. Yeah.
Occur on the street, however, it occurs in the courtroom. And it is this villainization, it is this violent, vile rhetoric that has come from one side of the political aisle that has created this very incendiary situation, one of extreme volatility. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that this will be the last incident that we have to break down where someone gets violent with an ICE officer requiring them to defend themselves. Okay, so once again, I ask all of you, what do you think? Lawful use of lethal force?
Yeah. Anybody that doesn't know who this guy is, I'd encourage you to go follow him because he does a lot on the national stage about gun rights, but this particular one is, just happened to be sent to me by one of my friends. It is, I came to these conclusions pretty quickly. I'm biased and I'm gonna take the side of law enforcement, but I actively tried to discredit, because that's how you should look at it. You should try to discredit your own argument. And I looked for ways to push it out. And I looked for ways that, that I've heard over and over again. He shouldn't have put himself in front of the car. He shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have done that. At what point do we stop saying shoulda, woulda, coulda about someone who's defending themselves and start blaming the lady that put herself in that position and wanted violence, chose violence, assaulted him, ran him over, and ultimately paid the price for those actions?
Yeah.
At what point do we do that?
And what's really crazy is when when they first started talking about sending ICE into cities and states, honest to God, I thought Chicago was going to be the war zone. Honest to God, I thought Chicago was going to be the biggest problem, that we were going to see this stuff
This has happened already. You know what's crazy about this, Tove? This has already happened in Chicago.
Oh, I know him getting drugged. Yes, I know. But it's like, it almost seems like this is actually ratcheted up even worse than Chicago was.
Yeah.
I did not expect to see this level of, or, well, I shouldn't say I didn't expect. I should not be surprised that Tim Walz is now suggesting civil war in his own state. But I can guarantee you, I can almost guarantee you that any National Guard, they might be in the state, they might live in the state, they're gonna take their oath first to the Constitution before they defend the state. If the state is literally calling for civil war, they're not going to want to go up against the entire might of the freaking United States military. And it wouldn't even take that much. It would probably take maybe the surrounding states National Guard, and they're just going to be like, okay, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't speculate on any of that stuff because it's just hyperbole at this point.
I know, but it's just crazy that I didn't think he was that stupid.
I mean, we know he is. We saw him debate JD Vance.
That's true. I shouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, I kind of am, if that makes sense.
Hold on, let's watch this one now. This is 3 months ago.
After allegedly using their vehicle to ram into federal vehicles, the Department of Homeland Security says there was another alleged vehicle ramming it just blocks away. That one was caught on. Tonight, the Department of Homeland Security says there were 2 separate alleged incidents with drivers using their vehicles to other vehicles with federal agents. According to a federal criminal complaint, Marimar Martinez and Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz used multiple vehicles to strike a vehicle driven by federal agents in Brighton Park yesterday. Prosecutors say Martinez and Ruiz used their vehicles to box in the agent's car. Court documents
I remember that.
Unable to move his vehicle.
This is a strategy that protesters are using, and it has turned deadly. So
wasn't there another woman that was
there's been
shot?
several of them. I want to get through all these though.
Out and fired about 5 shots at Martinez. DHS says yesterday Martinez allegedly attempted to run over agents and was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. Martinez drove off, but paramedics found her at a repair shop about a mile away from the scene. An ambulance took her to the hospital where her gunshot wounds were treated. Ruiz also drove away, but prosecutors say police found him and his vehicle at a gas station about a half a block away. This video, captured by a witness shared with ABC News, was taken at Kedzie and West 40th Street. We slow it down to show a uniformed officer pointing a gun. Ruiz's SUV is also seen at the gas station. Court documents say it's the same gas station where agents later detained him. Prosecutors say the 2 were allegedly part of a convoy that followed agents after a CBP operation. Tonight, we're learning about an apparent second incident involving a driver allegedly ramming a federal vehicle. This video captured from about 6 blocks north. Here you see the driver of a black SUV ram into the back of a white pickup truck with flashing blue lights. It's not clear who is driving the SUV. The SUV chases the pickup down Kedzie towards the direction of protesters. A second black SUV slams into the first one, and what appear to be uniformed officers jump out. That video has been widely viewed with the claim it showed the original attack on federal agents, but DHS says it's from another, what they called, quote, vehicle assault. DHS also says that unidentified suspect is in federal custody after attempting to run ICE agents off the road. Several agents were taken to the hospital, but it's unclear how they're doing tonight. As for Martinez and Ruiz, both are in custody, charged with assaulting, impeding, and interfering with a federal law enforcement officer.
Huh. And then we
Yeah,
go.
that's what I was thinking of.
Have to fire their weapons while they're on the top. But the agency says they had to do it yesterday after 2 criminal illegal aliens tried to ram them with their vehicle when they were trying to arrest them. So this all happened yesterday in the Colorado area. After agents from ICE's Denver field office reportedly targeted illegal aliens at the construction site. Now, after the attempted vehicle ramming, ICE says one of their agents shot at the aliens in self-defense, but they escaped in their vehicle, which they later abandoned. They are now on the run with a manhunt underway for them as we speak. ICE says there were no injuries and adds in part, quote, 2 criminal aliens attempted to ram their vehicle into ICE officers during a targeted enforcement operation in Colorado Springs, Colorado, July 31st. As a result of their violent actions and to protect the officers and agents on site, an officer fired 3 shots into the vehicle. The aliens fled and later abandoned the vehicle. Law enforcement officials are currently searching for the fugitives.
But no, nothing like that's
Right? I knew it was happening. I forgot about it. I knew about the one with the chick, the lady that rammed them and got shot. And first they were trying to say that she was shot and killed, and then turns out she wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know about the other ones. So
We got this
But
one
you
right
know-
here. Hold on. Matt, this is what we were talking about. Rear ends them.
His city is a
News at 9.
And our top story tonight, another volatile scene erupting between federal immigration agents and a person they were seeking.
The suspect apparently hit 2 ICE agents today in St. Paul. One of the agents also fired their gun. Fox 9's Leon Purvis joins us live in St. Paul with what we know so far. And Leon, it sounds like it went on for quite some time.
That's right, So Young and Kelsey. DHS says tonight that this involves a Cuban national who is not a U.S. citizen. Now, the federal authorities say they tried to detain the suspect as he got into his car near Westminster Street in St. Paul. That's where the first ICE agent was hit. Agents say the suspect drove off, hit 2 parked vehicles, and then the second ICE agent was hit. That agent fired their weapon. The Department of Homeland Security says the man then went to his apartment complex, rammed another ICE vehicle, and then took off on foot.
Just seen the agents roll up real fast, and they jumped out of the car and started firing. It sounded like there was 3 shots that went off.
Now, DHS says that no one was hit by the agent's bullet and that the suspect was eventually detained and that he was taken to a hospital for evaluation and remains in ICE custody. And the 2 agents were treated for non-life-threatening injuries.
And then we can go to this one.
In Chicago.
This standoff in the street happening after 2 illegal migrants from Venezuela were arrested for allegedly ramming their vehicle into a Border Patrol SUV.
Todd Pyro joins us with more. Todd.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be getting better in the Windy City. Good morning to all 3 of you. Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker blasting federal agents for using tear gas to disperse violent crowds of anti-ICE rioters. Pritzker saying, quote, ICE is recklessly throwing tear gas into our neighborhoods and busy streets. The Trump administration must stop their deployment of dangerous chemical weapons into the air of peaceful American communities. Now, those protests were anything but peaceful. Prior to the deployment of the tear gas, Chicago police were trying to de-escalate an anti-ICE mob when people in the crowd began getting violent. Chicago PD confirming the incident, saying, quote, individuals began throwing objects at the federal agents, at which point the federal agents deployed tear gas into the street. Now, this mob began to form after the arrest of 2 illegal migrants that DHS says rammed their vehicle into a Border Patrol SUV and then attempted to flee the scene. The driver and the passenger involved in the pursuit were Venezuelan nationals who entered the country illegally. The driver, an ICE fugitive, who was ordered to be removed in August of last year. Once the 2 were taken into custody, that crowd began to form. DHS saying, quote, the incident is not isolated and reflects a growing and dangerous trend of illegal aliens violently resisting arrest and criminals ramming cars into our law enforcement officers. Back over to you.
Right. So is the governor going to say that it's okay that illegal?
And then we go here.
Here's what this says. Today in Chicago, members of our brave law enforcement were attacked, rammed, and boxed in by 10 vehicles, including an attacker with a semi-automatic weapon. I'm deploying more special operations to control the scene. Reinforcements are on their way. If you see a law enforcement officer today, thank them. This post coming shortly after we did see another social media post here from Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, after she shared that federal agents were rammed and boxed in by 10 cars in Broadview, Illinois. And that's where anti-U.S. immigration and customs enforcement crowds have been gathering for days. DHS said agents were unable to move their vehicles and they had to exit. One of the drivers accused of ramming into the law enforcement vehicle was armed with a semi-automatic weapon. More than a dozen protesters being arrested in the streets near the ICE processing center in Broadview. Local authorities charged at least 5 people. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem saying yesterday that she and her team also were blocked from accessing the Village of Broadview Municipal Building, located about 12 miles west of downtown Chicago. Noem said that she and her team were stopping for a quick bathroom break. And in the same post on social media, Noem slammed Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker as well. So this is a video from yesterday there. I just wanted to clarify that, but we are learning here. If we could go back to this first post here from.
So yeah, they have many different examples of people using their vehicles as weapons against ICE. This is not new. They are keenly aware of it happening, and yet we're going to sensationalize this. Why do you think we're sensationalizing something? Is it because possibly that Tim Walz is under investigation for $12 billion or $18 billion in fraud, and doesn't wants another tragedy? The Democrats love their tragedies. They love to sensationalize tragedies. But
I'm gonna hop on mute for a second, so give me just a few moments.
I'm about to hop off here. I was gonna say, everybody have a good day.
Perfect timing.